Very good afternoon, friends. Welcome to the Saturday webinar session of Hello Kids. And today we are going to learn about the psychosocial development of children during preschool years. So to know more about this, we have our guest speaker for today, and she is Miss Ruchika Sethi. Ma'am, welcome. So
Thank you.
Before moving forward, let me say a few words about ma'am. So ma'am is a trained counseling psychologist. She has a bucket of experience in training, learning and development, social education teaching. She is a fitness enthusiast and a yoga instructor. And as an educator, she has worked with children of all age groups. And she is a proud mother of 2 daughters. So, ma'am, welcome to the Saturday webinar session. Over to you now.
Thank you, Samapika. Thank you for the introduction. And good afternoon to everybody who has logged in. Thank you, Hello Kids, for having me here. And a special thanks to Mr. Preetham Agarwal for giving me this opportunity for sharing my thoughts with the parents, educators here. Today I'm going to share my thoughts on the topic psychosocial development of children in preschool years. Samapika, if you can share the PPT. Thank you, Samapika. Preschool years are a magical time in development of a child. Children move from being almost entirely dependent on their parents to being somewhat independent in the world, in virtually every aspect of development, including their social and emotional skills. Their knowledge base and competencies are exploding. Psychosocial development is just a fancy phrase that refers to how a person's individual needs, thoughts, psycho mesh with the needs or demands of society, or that is social. Erikson maintained that personality develops in a predetermined order through 8 stages of psychosocial development, from infancy to adulthood. During each stage, the person experiences a psychosocial crisis, which could have a positive or negative outcome for personality development. As you can see on the screen, there are the 8 stages. By resolving the crisis, we develop a psychological strengths or character traits that help us become confident and a healthy personality. As you can see, the stages are, the crises are trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame and doubt, so on, till the last stage, which is integrity versus despair. Now, the key to these crises is to attain a balance between 2 concepts. Failure to successfully complete a stage can result in reduced ability to complete further stages, and therefore a more unhealthy personality and a sense of self. These stages, however, can be resolved successfully at a later time. I'll take you through these stages where you recognize and understand first yourself, your own personality. Maybe you can relate your own self with these development stages, and then try to understand your child. Please reflect on the following questions, which will take you to the early stages of your development history. You may have heard of some stories about yourself from infancy. What are your memories of those stories? You may have seen your pictures from this stage. How would you describe yourself? How do you think you were taken care of at this stage of your life? Have you heard any stories about your parents or siblings from that time? What image of theirs do you carry in your mind? I would want you to reflect on these questions and try to relate your own developmental history to these stages. This brings us to the first stage of Erikson's theory, which begins at birth and lasts until the baby approaches their first birthday and a little beyond, maybe 18 months. The developmental issue is trust versus mistrust. During this stage, the infant is uncertain about the world in which they live. They look towards their primary caregiver, which is mother or somebody else, for stability and consistency of care. The little one's totally dependent on the parent for everything: food, warmth, comfort. The parent needs to be there for their baby by giving them not only physical care, but also plenty of love. So no need to hold back the cuddles. By providing these basic needs, you teach them that they can depend on you. This builds within them the psychological strength of trust. Feeling secure and safe, your infant will be ready to experience the world. If the care the infant receives is consistent, predictable, and reliable, they will develop a sense of trust, which will carry them to other relationships as they grow older. And they will be able to feel secure even when threatened. But no infant grows up in a perfect world. You can slip up. Maybe you yell once in a while, or you don't want to read another bedtime story. Don't worry, we are only human. Occasional turbulences gives your child a touch of wariness and avoids gullibility when he grows older. With this, when they're ready to experience the world, they'll keep an eye out for obstacles. Success at this stage will lead to virtue of hope. And we all know how important that is. By developing a sense of trust, the infant can have hope that when a new crisis arises, there's a real possibility that other people will be there as a source of support. But what happens when parents are consistently unpredictable and unreliable? If these needs are not consistently met, mistrust, suspicion, fear, and anxiety may develop. In this situation, the infant will not have confidence in the world around them or in their abilities to influence events. Failing to acquire the virtue of hope will lead to development of fear. This infant will carry the basic sense of mistrust and with them to other relationships. That brings us to the next stage, the stage of early childhood, which starts from 1 year or 18 months to 3 years. And I would like you to reflect on these questions. What are your memories of your siblings and other people around you at this time? Who was there for you, for your needs, and held you when you were scared or crying? Who set the boundaries when you were angry or throwing tantrums? Who did you play, laugh, and have fun with? Have you heard any stories about yourself at this stage? Do you notice anything particular when you look at your pictures of this period? Autonomy versus shame and doubt is the second stage of Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. This stage occurs between, as I said, between 18 months to approximately 3 years. According to Erikson, children at this stage are focused on developing a sense of personal control over physical skills and a sense of independence. In this stage, children are learning to be self-sufficient in ways such as self-regulation, toileting, feeding, and dressing. You know that your child has hit this milestone when the toddler starts to assert their independence. They realize that they can do things by themselves, and they insist on doing those things. So you may hear cries of, "Me, I want to do, me, I will do it." For example, walking away from their mother, picking which toy to play with, making choices about what they like to wear, to eat, etc. By this stage, the toddler has food preferences. So let them choose their own snacks, or let them choose which shirt they want to wear. Give them two choices, two shirts to pick from. Sure, there'll be times when their clothes don't match. Grin and bear it, because giving them the space to choose means helping them build their self-esteem. Your toddler is ready for toilet training. Learning to control their bodily functions gives them a feeling of independence and autonomy. The child is developing physically and becoming more mobile, and discovering that he or she has many skills and abilities, such as putting on clothes, buttoning their shirts, shoes, playing with toys. Such skills illustrate child's growing sense of independence and autonomy. If children in this stage are encouraged and supported in their increased independence, they become more confident and secure in their own ability to survive in the world. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of will. Children who aren't given the chance to assert themselves within the limits you set will battle with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. If children are criticized, overly controlled, they begin to feel inadequate in their ability to survive and may then become overly dependent upon others. They lack self-esteem. They'll have a sense of shame or doubt in their abilities. The aim here is self-control without the loss of self-esteem. So if they want to dress up themselves, have patience and let them try. This brings us to the next stage, which is actually the stage we'll be talking in detail, because these are the preschoolers. The stage of play age, that is from 3 to 6 years. And some questions for you to reflect for yourself. Who were the significant individuals around you? Did you have any role model? What did you enjoy doing the most? What were your favorite toys and games? Who did you play with? Did you have any close buddies? What are some of your cherished memories? So during the first two periods, the focus is on children forming a sense of trust in the world, as well as feelings of independence and autonomy. If they have successfully completed the earlier two stages, kids now have a sense that the world is trustworthy and that they're able to act independently. Each of these foundational stages plays a role in the later stages that will follow. It is as children enter the preschool years that they begin the third stage of psychosocial development, which is centered on initiative versus guilt. Now, it is important for kids to learn that they can exert power and control over themselves and the world. They need to try things on their own and explore their abilities. By doing this, they can develop ambition and direction. Some of the main features of this stage are initiative and independence. Children at this stage have the desire to take initiative or to think of ideas. Children may want to build a fort with the cushions from the living room couch, or open a lemonade stand, or make a zoo with their stuffed animals and issue tickets to those who want to come. Or they may just want to get themselves ready for bed without any assistance. Children learn to imagine, to become more independent, to broaden their skills through play, fantasy, exploration, and to engage, participate, and cooperate with others, including peers. Children assert themselves more frequently through directing play and other social interactions with other children at school. These are particularly lively and rapid developing years in a child's life. So the child is now moving from only the mother or the primary caregiver to parents and family to now interacting with world, with other children, with their peers. Individuation. One of the challenges for the child is to learn to maintain the secure attachments accomplished during infancy and toddlerhood, while simultaneously differentiating oneself as an individual. Individuation for children over the preschool years means developing a better understanding of who they are, as well as beginning to understand and relate to others. Creating their personal identity means exploring fundamental aspects about themselves, gender, race, personality. At age 3, children still believe they can grow up and transform genders. By 6, they understand that gender is more or less fixed aspect of their identity. Thus, over the preschool years, children begin to have a sense of stable characteristics that make them the unique person that they are. Empathy. In the course of this development, preschoolers also learn more sophisticated ways to relate to others. For example, empathy develops beginning at around age 2 and becoming more visible around age 3 and 5. When a child experiences empathy, he realizes that he can positively affect another by taking action or offering help. Example, getting a band-aid for a crying peer. And sometimes they themselves start feeling sad if they see somebody else sad. That's empathy. They're feeling from that stage onwards. Regulation and control. Children's imaginations can take them wonderful places, alone or with peers. It is over the preschool years that children move from parallel play, where friends play side by side but separately, to social play, where friends interact, share ideas, and build off the play of the other. During this time, children begin to be able to play games where they learn turn taking, sharing, as well as how to adhere to rules. What children learn through these playful interactions is manifold. They're beginning to learn to interpret others' perspectives, to regulate their responses and interactions, manage impulse control, increase both their ability to wait and demonstrate patience, as well as their ability to share an object or event. To give an overview, the psychosocial conflict at this stage is initiative versus guilt. And the major question is, am I good or bad? The basic virtue is purpose. And important events here are exploration and play. Success in this stage will lead to a virtue of purpose and develops self-confidence. If given this opportunity, children develop a sense of initiative and feel secure in their ability to lead others and make decisions. It starts from there. While mistakes are inevitable in life, kids with initiative will understand that mistakes happen and they just need to try again. If these goals are not accomplished, the child will become fearful of trying new things, socially excluded, limited in his ability to play, or negatively depend on adults. If this tendency to question, to be curious is squelched either through criticism or control, children develop a sense of guilt. The child will often overstep the mark in his forcefulness, and the danger is that the parents will tend to punish the child and restrict his initiatives too much. When children do direct efforts towards something, they may feel they're doing something wrong. Children who experience guilt will interpret interpret mistakes as a sign of personal failure and may be left with a sense that they are bad. Now, what can parents, caregivers, or teachers do? First is choices. So during this stage, it's important for caregivers to encourage exploration and to help children make appropriate choices. Caregivers who are discouraging or dismissive may cause children to feel ashamed of themselves and to become overly dependent upon the help of others because they think that they cannot do it or it's wrong if they do it. This stage can sometimes be frustrating for parents and caregivers as children begin to exercise more control over things that impact their lives, such decisions can range from friends that they play with, the activities they engage in, and the way they approach different tasks. Parents and other adults may want to guide children towards certain friends, activities, or choices, but children might resist and insist on making their own choices. While this might lead to some conflicts with parental wishes at times, it is important to give kids a chance to make some choices. Allow your students to decide what they want to read in the reading club, or let them select the activity for the next class. Provide a portion of the day when children can choose their own activities. However, it is important that adults continue to enforce safe boundaries and encourage children to make good choices through use of modeling and reinforcement. Offer praise and encouragement. It doesn't cost anything. To reinforce taking initiative, caregivers should offer praise for the child's efforts and avoid being critical of messes or mistakes. Placing pictures of their drawings on the refrigerator or admiring their towers of Legos will facilitate the child's sense of initiative. Encourage them by giving them opportunities to win. Break instructions into activities down into smaller steps. This makes it easier for children to succeed and encourages them to take risks. Ensure that any competitive game or activity has well-balanced teams. This can happen in schools when you have teams and you are playing with each other. If children consistently lose at math game, they may believe they are bad at math. Conversely, even a struggling student may feel confident in their mathematical abilities if their team performs well overall. And also accept their mistakes that result from them attempting activities on their own. If a child damages something or makes an error, show him how to fix or redo it instead of simply punishing him. This will make students feel more confident in their abilities to attempt activities on their own. Providing opportunities. You can encourage the child to plan, achieve goals, and take responsibility by making sure they have plenty of opportunities to interact with others. Let them explore the world within the limits that you have set up for them. Take them to visit older adults. Give out chocolates. Set up play dates for them with their peers. And don't forget that you can be a playmate too. Give your child a chance to direct the show by letting them be the teacher, the doctor, sales clerk, while you act as the student, patient, or customer. Answer questions. It is at this stage the child will begin to ask endless questions as his thirst for knowledge grows. Breathe in. By addressing these questions with genuine interest, you're investing in your child's positive self-image. If the parents treat the child's questions as trivial, a nuisance, or embarrassing, or other aspects of their behavior as threatening, then the child may have feelings of guilt or for being a nuisance. But you have to strike a balance. Too much guilt can make the child slow to interact with others and may inhibit their creativity, their initiative. Some guilt is of course necessary. Otherwise, the child would not know how to exercise self-control or have a conscience. A healthy balance between initiative and guilt is important. A child must be taught that imagination is mentally healthy, but there is a reality and they have to acknowledge one in which there are consequences for irresponsible actions. Play is the children's work, and dramatic play has the added benefit of allowing children to understand social roles. It also provides opportunities for children to develop social skills, express and cope with feelings, exercise control over their surroundings, and experiment with decision making. Parents can help curb preschool aggression by teaching children about emotions. Help them learn the names of the feelings and give them an outlet for their expression. These goals or these things that we have discussed, they are achieved by most children through natural interactions with family and other caretakers. You don't have to go out of the way. While preschoolers are also learning to relate to peers and interact with them, most of the social and emotional growth occurs in the relationship with caregivers. Self-concept and self-esteem. I'm going to briefly touch upon this topic, which is related, very relevant, very important. Early childhood is a time of forming an initial sense of self. Self-concept is our self-description based on our external and internal qualities. In contrast, self-esteem is an evaluative judgment about who we are. The emergence of cognitive skills at this age results in an improved perception of the self. Self-concept can be defined as the view one has of herself and her abilities. A child's self-concept begins to develop at birth. It begins with how adults respond to them. Parents and caregivers create a positive emotional bond with an infant through warm and caring interactions, with a lot of eye contact and touch, which promotes a child's healthy self-concept. A healthy self-concept is the foundation for the positive development and overall well-being of a child. When a child has a healthy self-concept, they see themselves as being loved, loving, and valuable. They're also better able to reach their full potential and do better in school. They are better able to set goals for themselves and make decisions. They are more willing to learn new things and try new activities. With a healthy self-concept, a child has better relationships with family members and friends. They can control their behavior and get along with others. Self-esteem is the extent to which we perceive ourselves to be worthwhile and capable human beings. Self-esteem is a picture we have of ourselves. While many people are not aware of it, preschool is actually the perfect time and place to start building self-esteem of a young child. Here is a look at some different ways to build self-esteem that preschool teachers or parents can use. Be mindful of the language you use to describe your children. Do not label them with words like lazy, naughty, aggressive, stupid. Instead, look and point out your child's strengths. Avoid harsh criticism and sarcasm. Provide them with opportunities for success. Give your child age-appropriate tasks they can complete on their own. Giving your child opportunities to do things for himself or herself will help them develop that can-do attitude. Show your children that you have faith in their goodness and in their abilities. Give them the opportunity to explore their environment, ask questions without feeling like a nuisance, and engage in make-believe play activities. Failure is also a learning tool for children, and we don't have to shield them from all failures. Let them challenge themselves, make mistakes, let them know that they are still accepted and loved even if they fail. Encourage them to try again. Use words that encourage, not discourage your child. Encouragement recognizes capabilities and expresses faith in your child as they are. Children of this age group have a hard time paying attention, or may take several times. It may take several times for them to catch on to something. Instead of giving into frustration, smile at the preschooler and be sure to let them know that they can succeed and they are doing a great job trying. Encouraging the child is imperative, and it will help them get the strength to keep trying till they succeed. And then when they finally accomplish something, teachers should be sure to praise them thoroughly. Show them their strengths. One of the first things teachers should do is to look for each child's strengths and praise them when appropriate. While it may not seem as though they are paying attention, children of this age will soak up that praise and will become more confident in other areas of their life as they grow older. Avoid comparisons. One of the most common yet biggest mistakes that will get in the way of building self-esteem occurs when a preschooler is compared to someone else. It is easy to compare their work, actions, or developments to those of other classmates, but this should be avoided. No two children are alike. When a preschooler is compared to one of his or her peers, it makes them feel as though they are not good enough. Instead of comparing the child to his or her classmate, praise them on their own individuality. What makes them special? Have a class activity that focuses on each child's special qualities. Be the role model. Last but not the least, one of the best ways to help build up a child's confidence and boost their self-esteem is by being a good role model. Kids this age love to mimic adults and really take in all that they see and feel. By being a good role model and acting comfortable and proud of oneself, the child will see this and learn that they too can have the same confidence and strength to be their own person as they grow. And I will leave you with a thought. A quote by Alvin Price. Parents or caregivers need to fill a child's bucket of self-esteem so high that the rest of the world can't poke enough holes to drain it dry. And I will open the floor to questions based on these 3 psychosocial stages. Are there any questions? Samapika? I hope you all were able to relate to these stages and you were all able to, now maybe you're a little more aware of the importance of these growing up years and how to deal with kids of this age group and give them a healthier personality, because this will carry on till the later years of their life, as we can still see in ourselves even now. What is one advice you will give to parents? So one advice that I will give to parents is that they need to remember that children are not their possessions. They are like those saplings or plants or seedlings which they have to water, nurture, and let them grow as individual beings. Give them the space to grow to their full potential. Emotional development. Emotional intelligence or development is a completely a very vast topic, and I would be very happy to take a session on that with if Hello Kids permits me. I can have another session on emotional intelligence. It's a very vast subject. The scope of today's topic is only the psychosocial development stages, not emotional development stages. Is there a difference in parenting boys and girls? Not at all. There is no difference in parenting boys and girls. It is important to remember that they may have different, interests and strengths, but there is no difference in parenting them. The parenting has to be the same for both. What are the ways to reduce child tantrums without scolding them? Any tips? Yes, of course. Now, it's very common, to spank a child or hit a child, which is very commonly seen. But to tell you the truth, it can lead to increased aggression and increased antisocial behavior. It can lead to a physical injury, mental health problems for children. And it has many other adverse effects. The alternatives can be, you can model appropriate behavior. Praise the behavior that you want to see in them. You can provide timeouts instead of that. Provide timeouts based on their age, of course. They say a minute, like if a child is a year old, maybe 3-4 minutes of timeout for them to understand that this is not appropriate behavior. Or 2 years old, 3 years old. So according to their age, give them choices. If they are, if they are stuck on taking one toy or doing one activity, give them another choice. Redirect them. Help the child identify their emotions. If somebody is throwing a tantrum, ask them, help the child identify what are you feeling, and let them learn to calm down when they have expressed those emotions. Ignore small annoyances. Maybe you can withdraw privileges. And maybe other things like, setting boundaries. It's very important to set boundaries, set limits. So there has to be a discipline that you will be in the bed at this time. So there has to be limits, or you cannot do this. There should be clear boundaries and a rewarding system. They should know the consequences. Listen to them. Listen to them. That's the most important thing. Hear them out. These are some of the ways where how you can reduce their tantrums. Develop grateful or gratitude in children, and what age can we start? As early as possible. Gratitude is one of the most beautiful things which can help in a child's development. Not only a child, anybody, any person. If you just think of 3 things for which you are grateful in a day, at the end of the day, for that much time, you will have only positive thoughts in your head. You will be grateful. You will see the positive in life. and that really helps in the child's development and brings positivity. When is the right age to let them go and take their own life decisions without showing too much concern and make them feel too protected? So it has to be age appropriate. So you can give certain kind of choices to the younger preschoolers. Which toys can they take? The appropriate, age appropriate choices they can be given to children. Or when they're a little older, which activities they want to do. So since we are talking about preschoolers here, so it will be limited to which activities, which books you want to read. What there can be a certain period in the day where they can choose their activity, or they can you can reward them by letting them do something which they really like. You know, that can be a positive reinforcement for a behavior. How can we make child not be stubborn for anything? Now, stubborn is again, you have to listen to what the child is, hear the child out. And also, as in one of the stages, which is the second stage, autonomy and versus guilt or shame. So there has to be a balance. So if there's too much of autonomy, the child will become stubborn. If you have been not been setting boundaries from the beginning, you have not been very clear and consistent in setting those boundaries. So too much autonomy may lead to stubbornness and impulsivity, which is maladaptation. And if there is too much of guilt, that is, it may lead to compulsiveness. So it's already 12:45. I think we can close the session. Samapika, thank you so much to the viewers for joining in, and thank you so much for being so interactive. I hope there were some takeaways from this session for you all.
Thank you so much, Ruchika ma'am. It was a very informative and beautiful session, ma'am. And thank you, friends, for watching us. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Samapika.